Sunday, the 30th of May, and you're tuned in to the Sunday Lunch Show with me, Kalil Rouse, on Teachers Talk Radio. In today's show, we'll be discussing the MPQSL with Philippa Raithmel. In addition, we'll be looking at 2021's teacher pranks and also how to effectively reward students. As always, tune in and talk it out on this sunny Sunday, and I am live.
Live from London. This is the Sunday Lunch with Kalil Rouse on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Good afternoon. Heard I'm in a lively mood this Sunday. I hope you are too. There we go. I hope you are too, as we're going to have fun this Sunday afternoon. It is sunny outside. I hope you are somehow in both enjoying the sun, but also listening to me, because it's a wonderful, wonderful day. Just now, before I came upstairs to start the show, I was sitting outside on a little bit of a sun lounger. So what I want from the people in the room, in the chat room, let me know, first of all, where you're listening from. I have done I'm going to do the intro one more time, Mr. Tom Hopkins, but don't you worry about that, mate. Let me know where you're listening from, what you're doing right now, or if you have plans, what your plans are for the rest of this sunny Sunday, or if you have no plans for Sunday, what are your Bank Holiday Monday plans? Let me know. I want to feel the good vibes this sunny Sunday afternoon. I am not on a hype. I'm just in a really, really, really good mood this Sunday. So I want to feel the vibes from the chat room. Let me know where you're listening from, what you're doing this Sunday. If you have any half-term plans, what are your half-term plans? Because maybe I'm this happy because school's over. Who knows? Maybe that's why I'm so chipper that we had school's over. Or maybe it's because it was my son's kind of 1-year-old birthday party yesterday. That's also got me in a very, very good mood. Or it's just because it's sunny. Or it's because I'm doing Teachers Talk Radio. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons why I'm happy. I just want to feel the good vibes in the room. So those of you in the chat room, where are you listening from? What are you doing this Sunday afternoon while you're listening to me? And what are your plans for the rest of the day? What are your plans for half term? Anyone going away? Are we allowed to go away? I don't know about this COVID stuff. What's the rules at the moment? Are you jetting off to somewhere green? Are you taking a gamble with somewhere that's in the ambers? I don't know much about these COVID flight restrictions, if I'm honest. I just assume I might as well just keep myself in the UK to just not run any risks. Who knows with all this? I don't want to talk about COVID too much, but let me know where people are going. As always, call in. Why not just call in straight away? Let's be rogue this Sunday afternoon. Let me know your vibes. From this moment on, if you do call in and I find you particularly interesting, you're definitely most likely to get yourself a Teachers Talk Radio mug, unless you have loads and loads of callers. And then I've got to make it I've got to use a random name generator. But call in as well today if you'd like a chance to win an illustrious Teachers Talk Radio mug. I've heard it is one of the best mugs for cups of tea on the market. That's what I've heard. Check the Amazon reviews. I've heard it's rated as the best, or one of the best, allegedly. Is rated one of the best mugs for teas and coffees going round. Let me know where you're calling in from or where you're listening from. Let me know your plans. The messages are flying into the chat room. If you're listening live on the Podbean app, let me know. If you're kind of listening through the Twitter stream, tweet me. You've got me at Kalil_R91, or you can tweet Teachers Talk Radio, which is at TT Radio 2021. I've got my Twitter feed nice and open, so I'll be able to see if anyone tweets me. It's yet to happen. I'm yet to get a mid-show tweet, but one of these days I will. Right, as I rambled on, a few things had to come into the chat so I can feed off. We've got Mal, one of our fellow hosts. Mal is saying she's listening from sunny Bournemouth. But Bournemouth is one of those places that I don't think have I been to Bournemouth? I don't think I've been to Bournemouth. Am I missing out, Mal? Let me know. Am I missing out from not going to Bournemouth? Is it as good as it sounds? I know it's got beaches. Are they sand beaches or pebbled beaches? Let me know. This is my kind of ignorance coming through. I don't know much about Bournemouth, if I'm honest. We've got Fod3 saying, in a park in Rome. I'm jealous already. In a park in Rome. You win already. You've won. Tom Hopkins Burker said, can confirm. I assume he's talking about the fact that the Teachers Talk Radio mugs are, as far as I'm aware, rumor has it, the best, if not one of the best mugs for teas and coffees on the market. So if you like, and also for hot chocolate, says Mr. Tom Hopkinsburg. So if you'd like a chance to win yourself a Teachers Talk radio mug, then just call in. You got the phone button at the bottom. You just click that button and you can call in at any point. It is a live talk show, and that's one way to get me to shut up is for you to just call in. Who cares? Right. So Mao has said 7 miles of beautiful sandy beaches. I'm jealous. We've got Femi's in the chat saying he's listening from Lewisham. I don't think the sun ever shines in Lewisham. No disrespect, but I'm a North Londoner. I'm a North Londoner. I don't believe in sunny South London. South London's one of those places where I do not frequent very often. So if you're from South, I apologize. I'm a very, very biased North Londoner, and it's never sunny in Lewisham. It's never sunny in Lewisham. Oh, my word. Sorry, no offense. I apologize for any South London listeners. He says he's at the Migration Museum, which he says it's a lovely place, Migration Museum. Then we've got Aiden799 saying he's listening from East London. I'm not going to start going into I'm not going to create some kind of London postcode bias on a Sunday afternoon, I should say. But East London as well is a place I do not frequent very often. But that's enough said. The less said about that, the better. Femi's told me, don't disrespect Lewisham. I'm not saying a single word. I've done enough. And Mao agrees. I know we've got people in the chat just now. Philip has actually entered the studio, one of my guests. So I am going to run the intro one more time just because I can.
Live from London, this is the Sunday Lunch with Kalil Rouse on Teachers Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. It's now 1:07 on Sunday, the 30th of May, and you're tuned in to the Sunday Lunch Show with me, Kalil Rouse, on Teachers Talk Radio. In today's show, we'll be discussing the NPQSL with Philippa Wraithmill. In addition, we'll be looking at 2021's teachers' pranks and also how to effectively reward students. As always, tune in and talk it out this sunny Sunday, and I am live.
Live from London, this is the Sunday Lunch with Kalil Rouse on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Excellent. That was my kind of first 8 to 10 minutes of rambling, because just waiting for the room to fill up so I can get as many people in as possible. I've seen my guest. She's in the studio. She's wonderful, Philippa. I'll see you. I'll give you the go-ahead in a moment, Philippa. But I can't wait. So today's show, we're going to be talking about, like I said, the NPQSL. For people who maybe aren't teachers or work in the kind of education sector, the NPQSL stands for, and I say this, the National Professional Qualification for Senior Leadership. That's what it stands for. The NPQSL is the National Professional Qualification for Senior Leadership. And we're going to be talking about that. It's something very close to my heart because it's something that I'm thinking about doing myself. And I'm going to be bringing on a guest in a matter of moments to discuss all things NPQSL related. A tweet was also put out from the Teachers Talk Radio Twitter earlier on this week, asking people to kind of let us know if they had any questions about it or if they've done it themselves, because I think it's one of those things where you want to find out as much information about it before you dive in, because you don't want to do that thing when you dive into the qualification and then 2 months in or 3 months in, you realize you hate it and it's horrendous. So hopefully this show will be useful for anyone thinking about it, to then get some information firsthand rather than reading the kind of stuff on the internet. Firsthand information from someone who has recently done it. So without any further ado, Philippa's trying to connect her headphones, so I'll just wait. Philippa, listen, that's the go-ahead for me to just ramble, no problem at all. Later on in the show, I found a TES article that was called 10 Teacher Pranks, and I found it today, actually, and I started to read them. Oh, she's calling in. I started to read through, and they made me nose exhale in kind of amusement. Philippa, do that one more time. I missed the invite button. Call in one more time. You did it correctly. I was just too busy talking about nose exhalation that I managed to miss the invite button. So call in one more time, Philippa, please, and I'll click that invite in time because I missed you the last time. There we go. We should be connecting. Philippa, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, I can. We made it. We made it. We
I'm
made
so
it.
pleased because I do have the wrong headphones on totally. And then just had a major breakdown when I realized my headphones were actually not charged either.
So hold on. If you've gone for AirPods in the end or wired ones?
I have. I've got AirPods. I've actually stolen my husband's because I've been teaching online all morning. We're actually
Right.
remote at the moment. And so I've done like 5 hours of teaching. And
Wow.
so my headphones, surprisingly, were like, charge me. And I hadn't realized. Sorry.
No, excellent. I'm glad we made it. And for anyone who's listening who wants to call in, and if you've got AirPods, there's confirmation that AirPods do work. So make sure if you do have AirPods, Team iPhone. I'm not Team iPhone. I'm Team Android. But if you do have AirPods, they do work. Right, Philippa, thank you for joining me. Can you quickly do? Well, I say quickly. Can you do a quick kind of intro for the listeners to just explain who you are, what you do, where you are, and how you're connected to this NPQSL that we're going to dive into?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in education for 12 years. I used to work in inner city Nottingham as a design technology teacher, head of department across an academy. 5 years ago, I moved out to Abu Dhabi and I've worked at two of, very proudly, the top schools in Abu Dhabi, Repton School Abu Dhabi and also Cranley, which are kind of like sister schools to the original versions in the UK. I lead digital technology and innovation across those schools, and so that's what I do at the moment. And as part of that, one of the things the NPQSL was really important to me was because I did my teaching degree after I'd actually done a fashion degree. I did my kind of PGCE afterwards. And I didn't do a master's in education. And here in Abu Dhabi, if you do not have a master's in education or an NPQSL, you're not allowed to be a senior leader, no matter how much experience and how much kind of work you put in and effort you do. So it was sort of part of generally my development and growth as a teacher and a leader, but also it was a big stepping stone of, if I don't do this, I actually can't get to the next rung in the ladder. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting. Okay, so you sound. Let's just first of all, Abu Dhabi. What's the temperature like at the moment? I'm just gonna make myself jealous, but what's it like at the moment, please?
Oh my goodness. Well, don't be jealous because honestly, if you walk outside, it's like you've just got out of a shower. It's so humid. It's about 45 degrees today. It is, what's it now, 4:15 in the afternoon. So yeah, it'll have been high of about 45. It'll probably be coming down.
Hold on, 45 what? Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Degrees, yeah.
Hold on. 45. Hold on, 45 degrees Celsius.
Yes. Oh, it's hot.
I can't even imagine that.
Like,
What does that even feel like?
It's hot. Like it is literally like you walk out, okay, I'll describe it like, you open your oven and you forget sometimes that you get the backdraft and you're going to get like a woof of hot air. Yeah. If you open the door to go outside in the summer, that is the feeling you get. It's like woof, but then you're actually in the oven because you're outside.
So what do you do? Do you leave your house? I wouldn't leave my house.
Oh yeah. Oh no, but you get used to it. And actually the winters here are incredible. Oh my God, the sunsets are to die for. But like you just acclimatise. So I've got two sons, and yesterday I took them out in the middle of the day. We went to go and have a haircut, and they were walking on the avenue, and one of them's got a hoodie on, and the other one has a long sleeved top, like t-shirt top. Both of them just like totally normal. And it just, yeah. And I remember moving here and thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to be one of those people that wears jeans here in the summer. I am one of those people here 5 years later.
Wow.
Walk around in jeans in the day because the malls are freezing and every apartment you walk in, everywhere is air conditioned. It's not like going on holiday in Europe where like maybe some places are aircon, maybe some aren't. You are in and out of the heat and you can be in and out so fast it doesn't really matter. So yeah,
I just can't fathom it.
Bearable.
I can't fathom it. I remember we had, what was it? We had one in England. We had one of the hottest days last year, and that was, I think, I don't know, high 20s, low 30s, and I felt like I was going to die. And I just can't. And that's when I stepped out of the car. So I had I remember this. We had an air-conditioned car. We had a whole journey. We'd driven down to my parents' house actually, in an air-conditioned car. And then I'd forgotten what the outside was like, and I stepped out, and it just slapped me in the face, and I just couldn't even cope. I don't even know what 45. I can't even fathom it. It doesn't make any sense. 45 degrees Celsius doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And when we first arrived, it was mad, and we were quite lucky. We moved here in the January, so imagine like the majority of expat teachers that come out here, they get thrown right into it. They get you out here in August, and you just get like, that's it. And so you don't have that acclimatization until almost a year later. So yeah, it's we were kind of lucky in a way. We got to kind of progressively get hotter. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any lower really than about 15 degrees. But 15 to me, I'm like, oh, I could do with a scarf.
Oh wow. Okay, right. Let's get into this then. So this NPQSL is one of those, if I'm honest, since I've started teaching, especially when I go into middle leadership, I just kept hearing the acronym banded around. I genuinely I knew it was something that senior leaders did. I often thought, is this something that's a prerequisite for getting into senior leadership? And then I found out as I've kind of progressed my own career that it's not necessarily a prerequisite for getting into senior leadership in the UK. I know that you were saying out there it is a prerequisite, which is slightly different. So just before we start, anyone that's in the chat at the moment, if you have done the NPQSL, or if you're thinking about doing the NPQSL, or if you're just interested in what in the world it is, then fire your questions into the chat and I'll put them to what I'm going to call our resident expert for the afternoon. Philippa, you're the resident expert on this, because I'm going to claim complete ignorance. I know a little bit, but I'm going to be asking a whole bunch of questions for me and whoever else has little idea about what it actually entails, because I know next to nothing. So hopefully you can enlighten me and enlighten all the other listeners that are tuned in at the moment. And if you are tuned in and you're enjoying the show, share it on Twitter, share it to your mates on WhatsApp, put it on the background while you're listening to us in the sunshine, and we're going to have a nice conversation. So let's get started. Philippa, my first question is, when did you do yours and how recently did you finish, just to get a bit of context?
So I literally found out 2 weeks ago that I'd finished and I passed. I started in the January, officially, I think I had a university day, may have been, it feels like such a long time ago now, in 2019, in probably the October. There was like a bit of an induction, but the course didn't start until the January. And then you basically have, in traditional times, and I'll say that because I know they have extended it due to COVID, they have given people an additional kind of few terms to be able to complete things, because some schools obviously may have had to put all of their progress on hold. Others may well have had time to be able to get on with it and do it regardless. So yeah, I started back 2019 was when I applied for it. You have to submit to apply to be able to do it. Some schools will put you forward as part of your leadership progression, but it is like applying to a university in some ways. So you can actually do an MPQ-ML, which is the middle leadership version. And then you can obviously do the MPQ-SL, which is senior leadership. And then the MPQ-H is something that you would do if you were going to be a head teacher. And they're all based around that kind of idea of actually continuation of learning, which is what I think, from my perspective, was the best part about it, was that I actually really got to hook into some really interesting conversations and debates with other teachers. But equally, I was able to hook into my own passion and the education behind and the pedagogy behind using technology within education. And that's what I focused my specific project on. So I did mine with best practice, and there's lots of places around that did it. It's just that's the one that I happened to do mine with, and it was modular. So we did every 2 weeks they would post a question or some information and research that we would go and have a look at, and then we'd have an online discussion. So it was kind of very much people were everywhere. There were a few people who were in Abu Dhabi and in other parts of the world, but mainly from the UK. And so this online forum might kind of be updated quite randomly, ad hoc, by people within this time frame that this had to be submitted. And so some of the marks did just come from the fact that you were integrating with discussions with other leaders or other people who wanted to be senior leaders. So that was quite nice to be able to actually just meet up with people and kind of chat to them about what they thought about different things and their stance on certain parts of education. And whilst doing that prepares you for the big project.
Yeah, so let's just so let's pause. Yeah. You said so much has already blown my mind. So for the first, no, I'm just trying to get my head around it. So you said So obviously this year it's probably been, I don't know if the plan is always, do you think it's always done predominantly virtually, or is it the case of COVID meaning that things have been done more virtually? Would that always be the case?
No, yeah, I think potentially they might go to more virtually. I just think people generally will with things like this. But initially it was meant to be that we would have 3 sessions where we would meet up with the other people in our local area. And obviously best practice were really great out here because they would actually get anyone in our region doing it together on those days. Unfortunately, we only had that one time to meet, but it was a brilliant day. You know, when you kind of go, everything makes sense now. Because you do, when you read things on your own, you kind of go, oh, am I like thinking that in the right way? Or, you know, you just sometimes just want to throw that out at people. And when you're doing a course like this, to go to work and do that, it's so out of context for everybody else that it's really hard to have that discussion. So they are really important days. And I think so normally they would do some face-to-face. I guess it's a bit like doing a part-time course. And the rest of it is just very much self-paced learning.
Yeah, so they would, so you were saying they send you out, they'll send something out. You said it's modular, so send out what information? Is it academic text, or is it, what is it? Is it just, so what are they sending to you? Because this is me asking live time, just trying to work out what's going on. So they send you what in particular? What does it look like?
So, well, it depends. Sometimes it might be text about things like the change curve, and so like Kotter's kind of looking at the ways in which we can change organizations. Other times it was different definitions of leadership and strategies that schools use within those leadership circumstances. So whether it was that you kind of were very a directive leader, or are you a distributed leader, or are you a kind of like, there's all these different terms. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but there's kind of all these different things. And the concept is that every module, you're then able to pull elements out of what you've spoken about within those in your final project. So for my instance, from like when I first started, I was like, I love distributed leadership. It's just incredible. Like, that's the way forward. This is what everyone should do. Because I've worked in a school when I worked at Repton, that was the way it was, and it was so empowering, especially as a kind of middle leader going into senior leadership. That was just brilliant. But as I did my NPQSL, and I was doing my project, because you do a live project throughout the 2 terms, you have to have it at least across 2 terms of a school year. I was like, oh God, you can't just do one. And actually then you kind of look back on all these scenarios of people who you've looked up to as leaders and gone, yeah, because when they speak to X person, they're much more directive and much more kind of, you know, this has to be done and there's no negotiation. Whereas they then might speak to another person in a different circumstance where they're much more, you know, accommodating and supportive. And actually it just blends in that understanding that you have to be so many different people as a leader, and you can't just kind of go, this is what I do and that's it. You have to wear lots of hats. So I guess all of these modules just help you to develop those understandings.
So you were mentioning about this final project. I get the impression that you have how much autonomy, is it autonomous completely about what your NPQSL focuses on? Do you decide what you're going to do your NPQSL on in particular?
It should be. I did. And I say should because I can imagine that potentially some people don't necessarily have that option. And that might be purely just because the school they work in is quite small. You have to do a project which shows students have made progress more than they would have done without it. It has to show that it's had change and impact on the environment that you work in. So if you imagine if you had like a 1 form entry or a 2 form entry school, regardless of primary or secondary, that would limit you to what you potentially would be able to do within that environment, because as in addition to the progress and the impact, it also has to be across more than one key stage. So you almost straight away are limited to what you can do because of those things.
Right. And then, so in terms of whole school impact, my thinking straight away is, if your NPQSL is based on something that has a kind of academic focus, then it'll be more easy to look at progress being made academically. But what if you had an NPQSL that's got a pastoral focus? Is that still Can you do that? Is that a thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a friend of mine here, John Hunt, he's a PE teacher and he's a head of a house, so vertical across a range of year groups here. And he's done his on that. And it's all about pastoral wellbeing and putting in pastoral mentorship and the impact and improvement that can have on their academic grades and also their own well-being. So you use qualitative and quantitative progress reviews. So you can have, if I surveyed all the students and asked them how they were feeling and asked them questions about their well-being at the beginning, and then use the same questionnaire to ask the same students again at the end, you would measure the impact of how they felt now after having had the different program ran for them. So
I see. Okay. So just to go back to the chat just really quickly. So we had Mal CPD, who's one of our fellow hosts. She said that she's actually facilitated the MPQs for the last 8 years at IOE, which I believe is the Institute of Education. So Mal is very well versed in these MPQs. We had a question from Tom Hopkins Burke that says, what are the new he said NQPs to start with, and then he corrected himself. But I'm going to just read it. What are the new MPQs about? Aren't there 3 replacements for the middle leadership? Do you know much about the new MPQs by any chance?
So I know that this is the last year. The people who came in on this academic year are the last year to go through this, and that they will be replacing them with something. In terms of what they're replacing them with, I'm not sure, because I think they're still under development. I don't think under any circumstances, though, that those people who have done them, and I was kind of, I've been obviously told this as well, is that don't worry, it will still mean exactly the same, so that I won't, haven't just gone through an awful lot of effort for something that's not going to be recognised anymore. It's just going to be recognised in a different way. And I think on the outcome, so there were frustrations, obviously, as there are with all courses, that you potentially think, well, maybe there isn't enough scope here, or maybe it's too limiting, or maybe all of these different things. And so actually I think what they're doing is trying to make sure it's still really relevant to leadership and education now.
I see.
So,
yeah, no, I was saying, so yeah, Mal's come back in the chat. I think she's given some more information here. I'm trying to just decipher what's going on. So she said there's been key changes with the MPQ. Apparently, the MPQ MLs, that's the National Professional Qualification for Middle Leadership, is split. She's then written, I'm assuming she's gone for, there's now going to be an NPQ for Leading Teacher Development, which is going to be conveniently called the NPQ LTD. Oh my word, these acronyms are getting ridiculous. Then we've got the NPQ for Leading Teaching. Then we've got the MPQ for Leading Behavior and Culture, which again is cumbersomely called the NPQ LBC. And we've got the MPQ for Senior Leadership. We've got the MPQ for Headship, the MPQ for Headship for oh my word. Then we've got the MPQ for Headship and the MPQ for Executive Leadership. This is NPQ galore. I'm tired. The more I say NPQ,
it really is.
The less it sounds like the less it means. It's starting to not mean anything. There's got NPQ. There's a whole buffet of NPQs up for grabs.
And
oh my word!
I think that shows, doesn't it, that just the difference and the change in education and the landscape of education and the vast array of roles that there are and actually need to be in schools, because of the way that things have changed and the growth in terms of schools. I mean, like, schools are totally overnumbered. And oversubscribed, and actually there are roles that people didn't even think they needed that they need. And we just know so much more about education, and I think it's really great that people can be quite specific about being able to do those things. I mean, obviously they've still got the SL, which you would hope, because from what I've heard, the MPQH is kind of a step up from MPQSL, so you would hope that the other MPQs before the SL are in the same sort of sense, not that you'd have to do them all, but they're almost scaffolding your leadership potential ready to be able to take on the next level when you get to it.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty, and by that I mean, what is required in order to pass? Is it pass and fail? Is that what it is, or is it going to like? It's just pass or fail. It's all or nothing. Is that what it is? Okay. So right, what's required at the end for them to assess whether you've passed it or flopped? Essentially, what's the requirement?
So it's different for different places. So for instance, mine, a percentage of it was made up of all the modules that I did across the year. And that was kind of part of the grade. And as long as you ticked all those boxes, then that was done. They were very much pass or fail. And as long as you'd taken part and made a positive kind of interaction within those groups of learning and you'd taken information from it, then that was a pass. There was also different levels of that. So within the NPQ SL, we had to hand in a business plan, a communications plan, a long-term plan. It had to show who were our stakeholders within that. It had to show, I did SWOT analyses. I felt very much like I was doing my marketing degree again. It was like all sorts of different things that would basically are all part of what you do as a senior leader, in terms of having to actually strategically manage a project. And projects obviously within schools are just the things that you need to have done because they're part of the school development plan. But this time you're kind of really pulling out all of the proof that it has really worked and it has really shown impact, in the same way that you might share with the governors what impact the money that they've put into that has actually had. So I guess it is very much preparational. So that was part of it. And then realizing when I was actually doing my project how useful it was that I'd spent hours making all these different worksheets and filling out all these forms and having discussions with my mentor every week and things like that. And we would just, that even was kind of taken as part of the marks, is actually being able to have that reflection time. Right. Acknowledging, one of the things that was really important on it was acknowledging when things didn't go right, and actually they want to know that, which I think is really good, because I personally, having failed many times of different things, I feel like they're always the things that you remember, and you always kind of go, okay, right, now how do I do that better, and how is that going to influence my future as a leader? So that's really important as part of it as well.
Okay, so let me, sorry to interrupt. So I'm still trying to get my head around. So are you doing, I'm assuming this some sort of, is it a dissertation style write-up at the end? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Or is it how many, it sounds like a really like juvenile question to ask, but how many words how many words are we talking?
It was 5,000.
Okay.
Which initially I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to write 5,000 words, that's loads. And then at the end of it, when I was writing like 10,000, and I was going, help me, I can't cut words and I don't know what to get rid of. It's all important.
Yeah. So
it was really hard. Yeah. So yeah, definitely dissertation style, but it was even worse than that. It was almost like, so I guess maybe this is me, maybe this is education, I don't know, but in my head I was telling a story. It was the culture and the growth and the project and the things the students had done that was so important to me. And actually they didn't need that. What they really wanted was the data. They wanted the outcomes, the data. So it was very much, and again, you as a school, you go, we do this, and we, because you're a culture, and there's no I in team and all that kind of stuff. But actually, you end up kind of going, I did this, and this happened, so I did that, and da da da. And it's very much on that kind of side of things. If it's very much, you've got to prove that you're the one that led it, you are the one that made the impact, you are the one that made the changes. How did you do them? When did you do them? And what did you do? And so it's very much, so I mean, I'll tell you now. So my first submission, I didn't pass because they said,
go on.
Because they said there was too much stuff that just they didn't feel was important, and it was because I'd written it as if I was telling a story. And actually what they wanted was the facts. And so the second time I submitted it, I got way more marks. But it was really hard for me because I don't write like that. I blog quite a lot, and I'm actually, I'm writing a book, so I can talk if I'm telling a story. But it was really hard for me. And I think for me as an educator, everything I do in the classroom is about the impact of what that has on those people's lives, and you almost feel like you need to tell that to people to get them to understand why what you've done was really important, when actually they just want to know, has it made impact, was it improvement, and the bottom line of it. So it was a really big learning curve from my perspective, of expectations of things like that.
Yeah, so you've got the dissertation. Just the sound of the word dissertation makes my skin crawl. I actively avoided a dissertation at uni. I had the option to either take another exam or do a dissertation. So I opted for an additional exam because I just couldn't face writing that many words. Okay, let me know, people that are listening at the moment, if you've got any questions about the MPQSL, or if you've done the MPQSL yourself, please let us know how you found it, because the next kind of question I'm going to ask is, because you mentioned all these kind of modules, and I think you mentioned the fact you had a mentor. So in terms of like, so this MPQSL lasts for just, how long did it last again? Like 18 months roughly? How long would it last?
Yeah, it was about that. So I did my project from the January through to the October half term last year.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
ran sort of term 2, 3, and then a part of term 1 because I needed some more assessment data that I wanted to put into it.
Right. And then, so throughout that time, how much of a time, so from start to finish, from the moment you decided, yeah, I'm going to start this MPQSL, how much demands on your time did it take up on a kind of, let's go the weekly basis, in terms of getting in the way of your normal, your standard job, essentially? How much time commitments would you say there are on a weekly rolling basis? Or is it something that you can just kind of do on the weekend? Or is it something you have to keep ticking over? How did you manage it? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. Like I read a lot of educational books anyway. In term time, I don't really read anything fictional or anything like that, apart from Grazia, and that's only the weekend. And then so I kind of immerse myself quite a lot. Whereas I guess if you're not somebody who reads a lot about new things in education and things like that, then that might be a big change. So for instance, I don't read loads, but I might read for, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour a week. And it was about that much that I was having to read on top of for the MPQSL, plus then having to do the conversation. So I'd say the modules alone were kind of an hour and a half per thing, per kind of concept. And then I was having meetings with a range of different teachers, senior leadership. I was meeting daily with the director of IT about our project that we were doing, because a lot of it was very much strategic and it was infrastructure based, so it was all about that. And I mean, I was quite lucky. I very specifically chose my project because I wanted to prove, one, that technology in education does improve and have an impact on children's education if it's used meaningfully. So mine was all about meaningful use of technology when pedagogy is the driver. And so I actually took the school from being they were bring your own device school from year 7 and above, but I looked at the prep school, which is year 3 through to year 8. And it was about making the changes within academic lessons and converting the ethos and the role of technology within learning to drive progress.
Okay.
So it's a big part of my job anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say,
if it hadn't been, I would have been hours. I don't think I'd have slept.
That's what I'm trying to get my head. So obviously a lot of it is, there's not someone like at university telling you what, this is not a situation where it's someone saying, right, you need to, there aren't submissions in between. Is there any like middle of the road submission? Like you've obviously got your final project, but between start and your final, they're like, right, you need to now submit X by this certain date. You need to submit. Does that still come across?
The business case, the business plan, your governor's reports, all of those different stakeholders things, those are all required probably once a month. So, and I mean, to write one of those in the detail that you need to then impact your project, because they then all become additional supporting documents to your final project, which is actually where, in hindsight, especially the first time, I realized I could have cut out loads of words because I'd written it all in them. And people can be kind of sent to those, you see, to see those different documents. But it was, I'd say, I mean, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours a week for across the project. And this is why you're better off trying to do something which is involved in the role that you already do, or is part of something that you think will be really impactful within the school, but is something that you can have as your focus for that academic year as well. And a lot of schools who support having the MPQSL will support you as a teacher to do that. So they have to, as a school, agree to allow you to have time to do your project. That's literally, so when I applied for my project, when I applied for my MPQSL, I had to have it signed off before best practice would even look at it, by my head teacher to say, yes, we will support Philippa in having X time out of the classroom to do their project. So it's in the best interest of the school as well. And for them to be able to get you to do an improvement project can only impact their school and benefit it. So it's kind of win-win. And you also know that your teacher who is becoming a leader is really actually gaining proper understanding of what it means to be a senior leader,
Right.
and how actually those different things are put into play.
Okay, so we had in the chat we've had Graham Collum, another fellow host, saying they did, when I was talking about doing dissertations instead of doing exams instead of dissertations. He said he actually did 2 dissertations to avoid exams. So everyone's different. But we've had a question from Scott, and he said, "I find it hard to separate the strategic from the personal impact it had. How did you get around that effectively?" Is a question he asked. How did you get around that?
Yeah, I think though that depends on what your project is, isn't it? I think if you're doing something pastoral, then it is quite hard to be able to separate those two different things. Because I was looking at educational technology, I guess it was probably slightly taken away as well in terms of that impact personally. I think the biggest problem that I have is that I'm really passionate about what I believe in terms of digital technology. And when I come across people who don't want to listen to why and how it can help children to learn better. I mean, as I'm dyslexic, I didn't find out until I was at university. I struggled all the way through university. And then when I became a teacher and started to use digital technology, I was like, wow, my life could have been different. And how any teacher could sit there and go, I don't want to listen, I don't care, when you know the impact and support it can provide for a student and how many doors it can open and windows to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of find that really hard. So I think that for me probably was the biggest thing. And actually that literally was about me working out how to separate myself into these different leadership boxes and almost realizing that you can't take it all personally. And that is part of that leadership development. So I think that the whole project really gets you very ready to have really awkward conversations with people,
Mm-hmm.
really difficult conversations with people, because you need them to listen to you. You need them to do something, even though it's not necessarily in their interest to do it. They're doing it because they are supporting you.
Yeah.
So that is really hard. And that's kind of where one of the projects that was the mini modules was really helpful, which was, and I've spoken about it already, which is where you look at all these different types of leadership. And I think everyone who goes into an NPQSL goes, oh, this is the type of leader that I'll be. And actually, potentially that project is put in place specifically to kind of go, or are you? Because do you need to be someone else sometimes? And, you know, I think when you look at leaders, you know, they are someone in their work and their role, but actually outside of that, you have to compartmentalize it. And that's always hard.
Okay, so what I've actually done, thank you for all that. This is really insightful and it's honest, and I like that. So I found an article on TES that was about the NPQSL, and it's just some kind of. This was in 2018, and some other kind of information it was talking about. As you said, it mentioned in 2018 there were some face-to-face days where you discuss key educational topics. I think you alluded to that. You're talking about you had the online sessions where they'd send out some material. They've mentioned stuff about tackling the disadvantage attainment gap and so on and so forth, alongside theories of leadership behaviors. And it says, I think, like you were just talking about now, it says the course has a heavy emphasis on self-reflection to help inexperienced leaders gain a greater awareness of their strengths and weaknesses and a greater understanding of how others view them. Is that something that resonates with you? Did you notice an emphasis on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was so, the horrible thing they make you do at the beginning. it's like the best thing and the worst thing. So, because obviously you'll be really nervous about it. They make you do a 360 diagnosis. Have you heard of them?
That's basically when you just ask people, right, what do you think of me? Do you think I'm this? How good am I at 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 this? And then you end up, you do it yourself, and then you compare your own to other people's, and then all the discrepancies get teased out, and you realize people think you're a pain in the proverbial when you just think when you think you're great. Well, yeah, that sounds like a real insight.
So then one of the things that you do with that is you go, oh, people hate this about me, so that's what I'm going to work on. So
Okay.
yeah, it's hard. Then the worst. So for me, I began mine at one school, and actually people were a lot kinder than I was about myself, and that was one of the first things was. You will always be harder on yourself than anyone else will be. And then I moved to a different school, and actually that's where I did my project. And and then I had to do it with a different group of people who hadn't known me for as long and had done it through COVID. And actually, they were still kinder than I was about myself. But it was I didn't necessarily get the same. I kind of didn't get that tangible information of what they now thought of me after I'd done the project. But yeah, so it was really interesting, and it was interesting from that perspective to see, having moved into a new environment, what people who didn't really know me thought of me, because they'd seen me as a leader but didn't know me in any other real way, and they'd seen me kind of leading this what ended up being a whole school project because of COVID, which was actually very helpful to my project in terms of digital learning side of things. But yeah, so that was really interesting as well, is actually these people that I didn't really know and that didn't know me that well, had known me for sort of 18 months, were filling out a 360 diagnosis of me. And that, it's scary, but it's definitely a very reflective course, a very kind of looking internally at yourself. And how
interesting. From what I gather, so this is just my understanding of it, because I first thought the NPQSL was something you had to do prior to being a senior leader. But what I'm getting from the conversation here is it seems as though the NPQSL is probably best suited to someone who's just become a senior leader and therefore has some kind of ownership or is overseeing something on a whole school impact scale and can therefore do the NPQSL on that same initiative or project that they're actually putting into place, and then it works alongside. Is that the right way of thinking about it? Is it something you should do maybe whilst, I know you said you had to do as a prerequisite, but do you think you were saying that the fact that you were doing an NPQSL on the digital strategy that you're already leading in school, then it just works alongside something you're already doing? So is that the approach? Should you be doing the NPQSL when you're already involved in some sort of whole school impact role?
I think I did that because I knew that was what I was about to go and focus all of my attention on. So it made sense for me. And also I was looking to get some tangible data that I could provide other people with about how impactful digital technology and learning can be. So I guess I had two kind of reasons why I chose that. And I could have chosen something else. I could have chosen something much smaller as well. I was actually told that the project scale that I did was much more like an MPQH. And my university tutor was incredibly supportive and brilliant, and has told me to do the MPQH in the next couple of years. And I was like, I am not writing that much again. No. But the course was filled with people who were in both situations. They were people who'd had lots of middle leadership experience across a range of different schools and different areas in that school, who potentially hadn't gone for senior leadership, weren't going for senior leadership yet, but wanted to know that they could do it and wanted to know kind of what to expect. And there were people who were deputy heads already and assistant heads, and there was a range of different people there, and they'd gone to kind of go, okay, like you say, I don't feel prepared enough yet, and I want to know how I can be a better senior leader. And so I think it works both ways, because it is very reflective. It supports your transition from going from middle leadership to senior leadership, which is it actually a huge step, especially depending on how big your school is. And then equally, I think it can really reinforce some of the great things that you're doing as a senior leader and why you've been made a senior leader, and actually help you to kind of really carve out who you want to be as a senior leader.
Interesting. So I'm going to ask you a question that I've got. I'm on this article again. I'm looking at it. And the same article on TES is saying, the question it asked on the article was, is it worth doing? And this person kind of responded in their article. They said, if you're hoping to beef up your CV, there's no doubt that NPQSL is viewed as a valuable and rigorous qualification. I wonder if people in the chat, if you have done the NPQSL, do you think that is something that makes you stand out from the crowd? Let me know, and I'll probably pitch that to you in a second as well, Philippa. And also this person's gone on to say that given the kind of, he says the NPQSL provides clear evidence that you can take theories about driving through organizational change and translate them into practical outcomes. So that's what this person's saying is the best.
Definitely.
That's something that really, if you
Yeah.
successfully pass the NPQSL, it tells prospective employers that you're able to take educational theory and then turn it into practical
And put it
outcomes
into
and
practice.
put into practice, and then show how much of a tangible or kind of quantitative or whichever kind, or maybe even qualitative impact it had on pupil progress. Is that the main kind of selling point of the NPQSL? If that's the main one.
Absolutely. And I think if you look at how much you can already know that person will have grown and developed as a leader, and also yes, they can have whole school impact and change, that proves to somebody, potentially if you're looking at someone who doesn't have that data written down, hasn't been able to be reflective on a project that they've done, not to say they haven't necessarily done a project, coming into your school, you would be more likely to choose the person who is more experienced because of that project. Because the amount of things that you have to go into, the little pots of information, it's just, there's just so many variants, and it really makes you wide awake to the amount of information that you need to know as a senior leader to be able to support a school. So yeah, absolutely. And change management is meant to be, I say, because I don't know the facts specifically, but it's meant to be the hardest thing to do, especially in a school that, you know, most schools have been doing the same thing for years and years. And actually, if you can make and drive change within a school that has already implemented and has specific strategies in place, and you can implement change that has been positive within that environment, then that's an incredible thing to be able to share with other people.
Okay.
So
No, excellent. No, excellent. 'Cause I'm conscious of time. We've only got about, in terms of my kind of pre-planned scheduling, I said we've got about 8 minutes or so until 2 o'clock, and then we're gonna have to unfortunately say goodbye to you, Philippa. But before that, I'm gonna just go through some tweets that we had. So like I said, on the Teachers Talk Radio Twitter page, we sent a tweet out that just asked whether you'd complete the NPQSL and how useful they found it. And we had some responses just to share with the listeners. So we had Shona Reed said that she enjoyed hers, but she appreciated it depends on the provider, facilitators, and other participants. She said she enjoyed the reflection and the opportunity to really think about her values and leadership style in a supportive space. And it also helped her to identify transferable skills for when she left teaching. We had someone else. Who else was it? We also had, where's it gone? Christine. So this is at Uppsala Girl. She was saying it was a good driver for change if your school supports your project, full on in the breaks, etc., to get on top of it, but not impossible. And there was always an extension option. Any idea what is it? Extension as in, sorry, I'm not going to meet the deadline. Can I get an extension? Is that what she's talking about?
Not necessarily the project, but you can extend it over more terms. So when you're actually completing it, so term 3 generally is the term that you meant to do the write-up, but you can extend that to the next window.
Okay, fair enough. Because that's also good to know. So then we had someone else giving a bit more of a negative kind of appraisal. And this person said, this was Anthony, and he said, I didn't really find it useful. He said the course leaders were often lacking in expertise and didn't link the sessions to the assignment. They patronized and did the whole fantasy SLT, what leadership style are you, all in inverted commas. If you're a secondary head of department or a large department, you should be able to get it just by doing what you do in a normal 18-month period and writing it up. Did you find anything about the course leaders? Did you find course leaders that were lacking in expertise? Or was that not your experience?
No, not the course leaders. And actually, my tutor was incredible. She's a retired head teacher, and we had Zoom calls and all sorts throughout the whole process. And she just was absolutely brilliant and so aware of the changes. And one of the reasons actually she said that she was a mentor for it is because it allowed her to continue to see what was changing in education. And she just loved that, is actually being able to read these projects from people and seeing what difference was being made in education, how brilliant that was. However, I did have the flip version of it, which was actually, I was told that because my project was to do with educational technology, that the people marking it would have less of an understanding about what I was talking about. And I had to be overly clear with certain elements of it, which within my school setting and within the educators that I speak to, and especially after COVID, since what every teacher has been through, are actually things that are just day-to-day progresses and projects and things that we would do as part of our workflow within a classroom. And so that was quite hard, is kind of knowing that my project, even though not modern, was so modern it might not be understood. Because I remember when I spoke to her about the fact that I hadn't passed the first time, she was baffled, and she just was like, I cannot understand why, because your project was so impactful across larger than it should have been. And so that would be my only thing, is that actually potentially they need to be more aware of the fact that globally education is changing, and if they're going to have international candidates, then that is something that perhaps needs to change.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. And then just to wrap, go a couple more tweets and then see what you think about these. We had Mr. Dan Parker on Twitter said that he highly recommends the NPQSL. The essay itself was very reflective, and because it was part of his TLR, he felt that it enhanced his role and developed the leadership qualities. I will say there's a lot of people entering the room. As I've been saying, I've been putting the messages in the chat. We are discussing the NPQSL. For maybe this is something that interests you, maybe something you've not really been looking to do in your career, but hopefully there'll be people listening back to this live, or as a podcast I should say, via the ttradio.org. So if you are kind of tuning in live, we've just tuned in, you've missed it, we were talking about the NPQSL. You can always listen back, as with all our shows, on www.ttradio.org/listen back, and then you can listen back to this entire conversation as a podcast if the NPQSL is something that interests you. So there was another one. Have you ever heard of? Someone was talking about the ILM. Do you know anything about the ILM, Philippa?
Is that the International Middle Leadership?
Maybe, because someone said, I'll be interested to hear comparisons to they said ILM, so I'm assuming it's the same thing. And they're wondering whether you know, and if you know anything about that, or whether the kind of pros and cons of the others, or which one's better than. Do you know anything about the two?
I don't know anything about that one. I guess I chose the NPQ because it was linked to the UK, which is obviously where I did my training and where I'm from. So it always felt like it was the best one for me to do. I'm not sure whether there were any other ones, and because they were able to be done internationally, it was just the obvious choice. I do know that people, especially here, will recognise a master's degree in the same stance as an NPQSL.
Okay, right. So just kind of wrap up, last kind of comments. So someone who would you recommend? If someone's listening to this show right now and they want to know whether you'd recommend them to do the NPQSL, how would you know whether you're ready to do it, and what position should you be in your opinion, to then say, right, yeah, I'm ready to get on with this. I think I'm in a position. What advice would you give them to know whether they're ready or not to do the NPQSL?
I think if you've been in middle leadership and you are feeling like you want to do more, like I'm incredibly nosy anyway, but I just wanted to be able to do more with the school and to help support more. So I guess if you are feeling kind of like, I can't do enough within my department, there's more that I could do here, and are wanting to involve yourself in a wider kind of part or role of the school, I think that's a really good indicator that you are kind of feeling ready. Like, what you're doing is great and you're really pleased with it, but actually maybe you don't feel like you're making enough impact in that school and that you could support more. I think the only other parts that would be if you have the time, like, I've juggled children and a job and hence why I did much more of a focus in what I was already doing. Like someone's mentioned in one of the messages, you will spend a lot of your time in your holidays. So if you're precious about your holidays, potentially doing a course like this is not the right idea. But I think it was brilliant, and I'm really pleased that I did it. I'm very glad that I've got that impact report now to be able to share and show to people, and exactly as it said, to kind of new employers, prospective employers, this is the impact of it. And I think educational case studies are the way people are going to be moving forwards now, because people do have a lot more data, and it is really, the proof is in the pudding, like, how much did it support those people, children, etc. So I think that's going to be really important moving forward in education anyway.
Excellent. Listen, Philippa, all I can say is thank you very much for being for providing such a kind of candid insight into the NPQSL. I've learned a lot. I'm now racking my brain about whether this is something that I definitely want to do this year, next year, in the upcoming years, or maybe I think I need to talk to my kind of my principal and see what their thoughts are. But anyone else that's listening, I hope you got some information that you wanted about the NPQSL. Philippa, thank you very much for coming on and calling in. I hope you can stay on the show. We've got a couple more. If for the next kind of half an hour, there's still half an hour of the show. A bit more lighthearted, looking at some teacher pranks. That'll become clear. And also we're going to look at reward systems in schools and discuss that. So Philippa, like I said, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you for asking me. It was
no
lovely
worries
to be
at all.
here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you, Philippa.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Tom Hopkins-Burke.
This is Tom Hopkins-Burke with your weekend Teachers Talk Radio News. A Schools Week investigation has claimed that founding employees of Oak National Academy were in line to receive £41 million under their preferred proposal for the future of the online school. The proposal would have given Oak bosses 80% of shares into a private company before it was withdrawn, having been deemed unworkable. The document, Oak 3.0 Proposal, was submitted to the Reach Foundation, which runs Oak, by Oak's principal Matthew Hood OBE. In response to Schools Week's story, Hood tweeted that he insisted that every option that included employee ownership models explicitly excluded himself from them. The National Association of Head Teachers says that more school bubbles are self-isolating amid concerns over a new variant of COVID. Paul Whiteman, General Secretary of the NAHT, said that the union was picking up more reports of schools having to close multiple classes. Earlier this week, the government announced that 4,000 pupils missed school last Thursday, having tested positive for COVID-19. Furthermore, the number of students self-isolating following potential close contact with a positive case jumped from 65,000 on the 12th of May to 88,000 on the 20th of May. A petition calling for a teacher to be reinstated following his suspension for allegedly raising health and safety concerns has reached almost 1,000 signatures. Tom Mitchell, a teacher at Taverham High School in East Anglia, was suspended earlier this month following 16 years at the school. In November 2020, he was reported to have raised concerns to the school and his union about COVID health and safety measures not being followed, including ventilation and safety within bubbles. A spokesperson from the school said that the school had followed all public health guidance. That was your weekend education news with Tom Hopkins-Burke.
Introducing Amanda Davey. Amanda is one of the first specialist teacher assessors for dyscalculia in the UK and offers dyscalculia tutoring and bespoke training for schools. With 26 years of teaching and tutoring experience in the UK, Amanda offers specialist online tuition focused on building confidence and developing skills. Amanda also offers online and face-to-face training on dyscalculia for educators, informing practitioners as to how to identify children that may have dyscalculia and how to support them in class. Find out more about Amanda and what she can offer you at www.amanda-davy-dyscalculia.co.uk.
Well, right. If you're missing my voice, don't worry, guys. I am now back. That was probably the longest time on my Teachers Talk Radio career that I haven't spoken. So that was the news with Mr. Tom Hopkins-Burke. And then we also had an advert for the first time on my show. And then also you had my wonderful transition music. Just to do some quick plugs, if you're just joining what you've missed so far, we had a very, very insightful conversation with Philippa Wraithmill about the NPQSL. So if that's something, if you just joined and you've been thinking about whether you're going to do the NPQSL or not, you've been thinking about it, then by all means, listen back to this show on ttradio.org/listen back after we finish. For the next half an hour, it's just me and you guys. Just me and you guys. Hopefully someone will call in and maybe give themselves a chance of winning a TT Radio mug what we're going to talk about for the first bit. Hopefully keep it quite light-hearted. I found a TES article today that was actually called, what was it called? It was called 10 Teacher Pranks That Annoy Pupils. And I started to read them, and some were quite amusing. So I was like, you know what, let me just go through these on the show and see if anyone that's listening has done anything similar or have your own pranks that you use to just make kids cringe. To just make kids cringe. So if any of these resonate with you, please let me know, or even better, call in. Philippa just said, does that mean I talk too much? Not at all, Philippa. I never said that at all. It was very insightful. You spoke for the perfect amount of time. And I got hopefully myself and the listeners got what they wanted from hearing your insight into MPQSL. So thank you very much. So on to these kind of teacher pranks. Teacher prank number one, this person says, is sometimes whenever they get asked about whether they're on TikTok or Facebook, the teacher says that they always respond that they used to be, but that they've completed it, so they don't play anymore. So I've never done that because I don't think I could never fake that I don't know what Facebook is. Maybe if I was potentially in an older generation, I think I could probably fake that I have no idea what Facebook is, saying they've completed it. But I think TikTok is one that is a kind of current social media that I actively refuse to take part on. I wonder if any teachers in the room are on TikTok, because from what I gather, it's just all dances and I don't even know. I don't get it. I don't understand TikTok at all. So I don't even feign a fake interest in TikTok. I act like I've got no idea what it is because I have genuinely no idea what TikTok is. And this teacher says apparently they used to double down on claiming they've completed every Facebook level and unlocked all the achievements, which I think is quite funny. If your kids buy that, then maybe they're a bit foolish. But this person's saying that they also said they also add that if the students haven't completed Facebook, then clearly they don't know what they're doing. So the teacher says that he used to act like he's completed Facebook whenever students asked him. The next one he spoke about on the teacher's prank. So you guys listen, is there anything you do that you do deliberately to just make your kids cringe? Do you say anything, do anything that makes the kids in your class go, oh, sir, or oh, miss, or madam, whatever they call you? The next one, I don't know if anyone's going to admit to this one, but the next one, he's entitled Silent But Deadly. So what this person said is, another teacher said that when walking around the room, checking that they're all working, they let off a silent and potentially deadly fart. I can't believe I'm reading these words on a live radio station, but I'm going to anyway. And then what the teacher says, they then watch them descend into madness, trying to blame each other while I'm safely at the other end of the room, free from blame. I wonder if anyone is bold enough to ever admit that they've let off or passed wind, like done a drive-by silent one, and then gone back to the front of the room and watched the class descend into madness. I don't think anyone's bold enough to even admit that. But if you have, shame on you. If you have done it, shame on you. The next one is person speaking about the kind of misuse of wow. Anyone misuse slang? This person said they misuse slang, such as telling students that they aren't being very yeet. What even is yeet? What is yeet? I've got no idea. Someone let me know what yeet is. Isn't yeet that weird sound that kids make when they're doing a dance move? What is yeet? He also says that people use the word hashtag in lessons, like before giving out instructions. Wow, these are making me cringe. I think I might have to stop reading these, because reading them making me cringe. So I might even have to move on, because hearing these, I can't imagine even using them in the classroom. This teacher, the last one is actually quite pertinent. This teacher also said that they tell outlandish lies. Have you ever told an outlandish lie to one of your groups just because you can, just to see if they believe it? Let me know in the chat, or tweet me, or tweet at TT Radio 2021, or tweet me at Kalil_R91. What is the most outlandish lie you have told your students? I saw something on Twitter earlier from Miss Cato STEM, and she said that she told her students that she used to run for Team GB, which is, I believe, an outlandish lie. I don't know much about Miss Cato STEM's kind of athletic abilities, but maybe, I don't know why that even comes up in conversation, but she once told kids that she used to run for Team GB. What is the most outlandish lie you've told kids? I'm trying to wrap my brain and think whether I've told any lies. I can't think. I don't think I have. I don't feel like I have. I think I used to lie about my age a little bit. I definitely lied about my age when I first started teaching, because I started teaching at the age of 21. I don't know about you guys when you started teaching, but I couldn't tell kids that I was 21 when I was actually 21. So I used to lie about my age all the time. But apart from that, I don't think I tell any other lies, outlandish ones. Let me know in the chat if you do tell or have told any outlandish lies. And also this person saying that they used to tell kids about, was it fake, a bank holiday in May because it's Russian New Year. This guy, I'm reading this article. I don't even like this article anymore. I'm not going to name your name, whoever did the author of this article, but it looked interesting to start with. And the more I've read it, I've been less and less interested in it. So I'm going to move on instead. And what I want to talk about for the last kind of 15, 20 minutes or so is reward systems in schools. That's what I'd more like to talk about, because I just want to know how kids are rewarded these days. Do they still value rewards these days, or are they just outgrowing them? Do they see any value in your reward system? If you're listening live and you're a teacher, or you work in a school, what reward systems are used in your school at the moment? In my school at the moment, we have things called merits. And kids can get merits for a variety of reasons at any point throughout the day for demonstrating our values. And then the more merits they get, the more kind of rewards and prizes they become eligible for. So to give you a bit of context, in my school, you can, in there, they have a little planner. In their planner, you can have, you write these merits in. They're not really anything. It's just teachers writing in their initials. And then we put it on a system. And then that's kind of tracked electronically. So what kind of, like I said, if you're just joining in, what kind of reward systems are used in your school at the moment? So in my school, we have the merits. And if they get 5 merits in a week, then an automated text is sent home to their parents. And it says something along the lines of, congratulations, your child has got 5 merits this week. Please pass on well done, or something along those lines. And the kids seem, and the thing is, even though they don't receive anything tangible, but just the fact that their parents get a notification saying that they've done well seems to be something they really like. And every now and again, if I don't know, if the text didn't get sent out because there's a technical hitch or something, the amount of times I've had kids come up to me saying, I didn't get my text. Why did I get my text, sir? You said I was going to get a text. I didn't get a text. What's going on? And they really seem to value it. And like I said, it's nothing tangible. They're not getting a prize. They're just getting a text their parents, for their parents just say, well done. And they seem to really, really appreciate that. So like I said, for you in your school, if you're listening, what reward system is going on in your school at the moment? Or if you're listening back on catch up, feel free to tweet me or tweet Teachers Talk Radio and let me know what reward system is being used in your school. So back to my school. Like I said, 5 merits get you a parent text. If you manage to accrue 10 merits in a week, 10 whole merits in a week, then you get oh my word, what is it now? Oh yeah, you get an e-postcard. And an e-postcard is therefore it gets emailed home. And it's an electronic postcard, which I believe you could therefore print and you could stick on the fridge. And then you could, I don't know, stack up all your e-postcards. And then again, nothing really like it. This is more tangible. If it got printed, you could hold it up and put it above your bed, on your wall. I don't know what kids do with them. But again, they really value it. And I think it's just more down to the fact that there's communication with home. And their parents find out that they're doing really well at school. I don't feel like these kids need to get something, I don't know, monetary or anything like that for them to be rewarded. So they seem to value it. So like I said, 10 merits in a week, you get yourselves an e-postcard. Wonderful. Someone said, where from? I don't know what they said, where from. Tulian, let me know what you meant. I don't know what in answer to your question. Let me know what that means. And in Miss Cato STEM, they've got star of the hour. Is that per lesson? I'm assuming that means that each kid, is that per lesson, one kid becomes star of the hour, and then what? Is it just name on a board and then they move on to the next lesson? Let me know what that means, star of the hour. I'm intrigued because I'm involved in developing our kind of reward system. So I'll be very intrigued to know what other schools are doing at the moment with regards to rewards. Next, so like I said, 10 merits gets you an e-postcard. 15 merits gets your name up in lights on a plasma screen around school. So around school, we've got all these different TV screens that we use to put on different notices, or maybe we need to, mainly about notices, we have in the canteen. And then if you got 15 merits, then your name goes, we have a nice little template. Your name goes up in flashing lights and it says, congratulations to these people who have got 15 merits. And again, people seem to like it. The kids genuinely, we've only got a school up to year 8 at the moment. I don't know if they'll still like it by the time they get to year 10, year 11, or they cringe at it, who knows. But at the moment when their name's up there, they are very excited. But yeah, my name's up there. Guys, look. And also, if they got 15 merits, so maybe their name's not up there, they do kick off. Not in like a bad way, but they do say, hold on, I got 15 merits. Why is my name not up there in lights? So they do seem to appreciate it. And finally, if you manage to get the amazing 20 merits in a week, wait for this, you get entered into a Termly Awards draw. What do you win? You ask, what do you win? Well, let me tell you. In the awards draw, it's a random kind of name generator. And up for grabs, this feels like a game show. Up for grabs, you can get, I might even put some drum rolls, because just me, I might even put some drum rolls in. Where's my drum roll at? 1 second. Oh no, I've lost the drum. Here it goes. So one thing you can win is a lunch queue skip pass. Woo, 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 woo. Where's my applause? I can't even see it anymore. Let's go back. I can't find it. I'm not. Oh, here we go. A lunch queue skip pass. Crazy. Wow. Look at the cheers. Oh my word, it's still going on. So what that means is, on certain days, I would personally choose Fish and Chip Friday. On a Fish and Chip Friday, when the queues are long and everyone's waiting for their portion, you get to skip the queue. So you can get that. I think we have the lunch queue skip pass, about 5 of them, and you can use them throughout the next term. I can't remember how many it is, actually. I think it's about 5. That is one thing you can win. The next thing up for grabs, for example, is table service outside with, I just said, yeah, table service outside. Where's my applause gone? I'm going to have to talk over these claps because they go on for too long. By that, I mean, if you win the table service, it means on a nice sunny day like today, you can, instead of sitting in the canteen eating with everyone, you and a bunch of your mates can get seats outside, and then you get your food brought to you by either the principal or a member of the senior team. So you don't have to get up, and you can make your order as if you're in a restaurant, and you make your order, and we go and collect your meal, and we bring it out, and you get to sit outside in the sun with your mates and have some table service outside. So that's something you could also win. And then one other thing up for grabs, this is one of my personal favorites, whereas the next thing up for grabs in our awards draw is you get a lunchtime chill sesh to music in the dance studio. These cheers, this audience is energetic. So by that I mean, so if you get the lunchtime chill sesh, it means on a designated lunchtime or 2, you get to go into dance studio. You can hook up your phone to the Bluetooth speaker, and then you can spend your lunchtime in there listening to your tunes. That I'd want to do that. Genuinely, out of all the awards draws we have, that is one that I'd prefer to do. I'd love to have a break from work to just go into dance studio, put my tunes on, and just sit there and chill with my friends or my colleagues or whatever. So that is something that we also do. And I think we also have some Amazon vouchers and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of rewards we do in my school. And someone is calling in. See if they're there. Hello. Smiley. Are you there, Smiley? Smiley? You just mute. Smiley, you just come on. You just called in and then muted yourself. Maybe you didn't mean to call in. Smiley, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Smiley, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to take yourself off mute. Maybe you butt dialed me. 10 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Smiley.
6.
Smiley.
5, 4, 3.
Sorry then.
2, 1.
No, we're going to have to say goodbye to Smiley. I apologize, Smiley. If you actually want to call and speak to me, Smiley, then please do. But I get the impression you didn't even mean to. So yeah, those are the rewards that I use in maybe later, maybe later. Feel free. There's not much time, Smiley. There is 10 minutes. So it's now or never. It is now or never. So those are rewards in my school. And I found an article on rewards, and it's from a website called improvingteaching.co.uk. And it asked the question, rewarding students, should we? And if so, how? And this article starts by saying, and this person is written by Harry Fletcher Wood, and it was written in 2019. And it says, I've always mistrusted rewards for students. Students should be doing things for their own sake, turning up, learning, being nice. And I understood that extrinsic rewards to undermine, and I understood extrinsic rewards to undermine their intrinsic motivation to do so. And the thing is, I don't want to sound like a grump, but I kind of agree. I've said this to kids before in my lessons when they're like, oh, if I do this, if I get 10 out of 10, or if I work really hard, can I get a merit? I'm like, no. So no, you can't get a merit. You should be wanting to get 10 out of 10 anyway, just for the sake of being intrinsically motivated. You shouldn't want to do things just so you can get merits, in my opinion. And I have a rule in my class at the moment that basically says, if a kid asks for a merit, they ain't going to get one. So I don't know if you guys have the same thing, but for me, don't say, oh, can I get a merit? You just sound like just sounds desperate. Don't be that desperate for merits. You should want to, my genuine opinion is, we want to get kids to a point where they want to do well and they want to push themselves and they want to get 100% on their homework and they want to write really neatly and they want to participate actively, not because of some sort of promised extrinsic reward, but because they understand the value in participation. They understand the value in pushing themselves. They understand the value in being self-motivated and what chances and what opportunities it will provide for them in later life. That's what we want from kids. But the average kid doesn't think like that in year 7. But that's the ideal, isn't it? Surely. So, of course, there is a space and a time for extrinsic rewards. But surely you'd want school teachers and kids who understand the intrinsic motivation. So this person went on, and this person says, let me know what you think, by the way. Do you think we should still reward kids extrinsically, or should we be trying to develop their intrinsic motivation? How we do that, who knows? I don't even know how you do that, apart from continually talking to them about their futures and how important education is for that. This person went on and said that they feel uncomfortable about the reward systems found in most schools. And they mentioned merits and house points and attendance awards. I'm a fan of attendance awards. I believe. I'm just trying to kind of collect my thoughts on this. I believe, although we know that kids should turn up to school 100% of the time, we also should recognize that it is blooming difficult to turn up to school 100% every single day of the year, because not many professionals do it. Not many adults manage to turn up to work 100% of the time. So I think we should reward a kid or kids that have turned up to school every day of the year, not taking a day off at all. We should reward that, I believe. Every term, yeah. I don't think you should reward it like on a weekly basis, because that's no mean feat. But I think every term, I think you should be recognizing people that turn up 100% of the time. Loads of people entering the live studio at the moment. Let me know what you think on the reward systems. What reward systems are used in your school? Let me know, because like I said, in my school, we have a lot of merits, and the more merits you get, the more merits mean prizes. So let me know what the situation is in your school. I've just seen Sobia saying she had 100% attendance for 5 years. Wow. Were you rewarded, Sobia, is my question. Were you rewarded for it? What were you given? Do you know what I'd want? I'd want some Nando's vouchers. Not going to lie to you. If I knew that coming into school with 100% attendance would get me some Nando's vouchers, I would be there every day. Every day. And I'd bring my Nando's in with me on one of the days as well. That's what I'd be doing. So let me know if you've got, what was your attendance like at school? I think mine was good. I'm just trying to think back. I don't know who's listening. Maybe my parents listen. I don't know. I can't remember what my attendance was like. I feel like I very rarely missed a day of school. I think they just kicked me into school regardless, not physically or literally, but they just kind of said, nope, you're going. It's school. You're going. And I was like, okay, cool. And I knew that there was no point trying to say you got the sniffles or say, oh, my belly hurts. It was never going to work. It doesn't say you're going to school. Then you just have to take yourself on the bus. It was just standard. But for a lot of kids these days, parents are very forgiving of the sniffles, is one thing I've noticed. They don't come to go, oh, they're not feeling too good today. What do you mean? Get them into school. What's the difference? They're going to be fine by 11 o'clock. Unless there are certain things I can understand why they maybe wouldn't come into school, but not feeling so well. If they're vomiting profusely, I understand it. But if you've just got the sniffles or your belly hurts, drag yourself into school because you're not going to be doing anything different. Just me sitting at home anyway. Might as well sit in school and at least learn something, maybe. Anyways, so let me know what your attendance was like at school. Were you 100% attender like Sobia, or were you a flake? Were you a flake at school? Someone's, oh, I've got a good morning from Vermont from Elfie777. Good morning, Elfie. We're going international here. Sobia said she received a mini trophy and school was fun. Then it went downhill. And then Miss Kato Stem said, I never miss school. Mum wouldn't allow it. Here. That's the way it should be. The amount of parents I deal with these days, in my previous school especially, where they just let their kid not go to school. It's crazy. I can't even imagine it. Anyways, we move on. So this article goes on to say, what was he saying? There was a study that offered students $175 either to visit the gym 8 times a month, visit the gym once, or complete an unrelated activity. Interesting. I want to move on from that. I don't like that one. Right. So then they said he's referencing another study where apparently 7-year-olds were paid to read books. And they're just basically seeing whether extrinsic rewards would get people to read more. And apparently what it did is it increased reading achievement for native English speakers, but it decreased it for students speaking English as an additional language. This was 7-year-olds. So bribing essentially 7-year-olds to read books meant that if you already could read English well, then it was all good. You got better. But if you were an EAL student, so English wasn't your first language, yes, you would read more, but it actually decreased your achievement because you weren't interacting verbally as much, or just reading. And then apparently there was a study where you could pay 10-year-olds to do their maths homework, which again meant they did really, really well in maths, but then they got really poor at their reading, apparently, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure. I don't agree with monetary rewards for anything, if I'm honest. I don't think we should reward kids with some sort of, definitely not just money, but I think you can have that kind of argument around vouchers. Vouchers are just disguised money, surely. But I know we do give out vouchers for Amazon and stuff, and I get it. But at the same time, it doesn't sit well with me. Let me know what you think about kind of monetary rewards, giving out Amazon vouchers, £10 worth of Amazon vouchers to spend on what though? Anything you like, or does it need to be educational? I don't know. I don't have an opinion yet. Something about giving money for things in school just doesn't sit well. I feel like it sends a weird message to kids. Or does it? But then you say the flip side is adults, we do things for money. We go to work. If we weren't getting paid, we wouldn't go to work, some of us. So maybe it's exactly the same. Maybe we're being rewarded with money to just go to work. But then counter argument, school isn't work. Schools are just something they need to do. It's a legal requirement. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I don't know. Let me know if you agree with giving out monetary rewards for things in schools, or should it just be stickers and merits and certificates? Because if I'm honest, I lean that way. I lean towards the recognition, the celebration through stickers and merits and stuff like that, rather than here's £20, Johnny, go and spend it. Doesn't make sense to me. For me personally, doesn't sit well with me. But let me know what you think about that. Should we be rewarding kids with monetary stuff, or should it just be the naming lights and the certificates and the rewards and the positive phone calls to parents to say their kid's doing very, very well? Or Sobi said a trophy. Maybe we should give kids trophies. Let me know what you think on monetary rewards. Oh, I've just seen some people say, oh no one said anything. People are entering the studio. So if you're just entering, we're about to wrap up. If you're just coming into the studio now, it's pretty much the end of the Sunday Lunch Show with me. And coming up later on today, you've got the Late Show with Tony Breslin, and that's coming up at 8 o'clock today. And then we continue. You've got shows on Monday all throughout the week. So if you're new to Teachers Talk Radio and you want to know how to tune in, you want to go to ttradio.org and you can see the schedule there. We have shows every single day of the week, morning till night. So make sure you have a look on ttradio.org to get yourself up to speed on everything we do here. We are a fairly new platform, and we're just making some great strides. If you want to be a host on Teachers Talk Radio, then again, go to ttradio.org and you can get in touch. There are links there for you to be able to apply to be a host, or you can DM the TT Radio 2021 account and tell them that you're interested in doing what I'm currently doing, which is essentially talking to yourself for half an hour when you've got some people, and well, interspersed with interactions in the chat and maybe a random call as well. I very much enjoyed doing it. I get to unfilteredly, is that even a word? Oh, someone is calling in. Happy Days is calling in. Happy Days. I wonder if Happy Days is actually going to work. Nope. Happy Days, are you there? I don't think so. Maybe it's on the butt down. Right. On that note, if you are here and you've been listening through, thank you very much for tuning in this Sunday afternoon. If you're listening back on the podcast, and I know a lot of people seem to do, thank you very much for listening back. I have been Kalil Rouse. This has been the Sunday Lunch Show on Teachers Talk Radio, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your sunny Sunday this afternoon into Bank Holiday Monday. And Happy Days is calling in again. Happy Days, I'm trying to finish the show. Are you gonna come in this time? Let's see. I feel like I'm being prank called. I'm not having it. We're done. Thank you very much, guys. We're signing out.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
I always like doing the little end credits like a Marvel style, just see if people are still listening. I got a message from my actual mum who was listening, who said she would send me to school even in the winter when the roads were covered with snow and ice, only to then find that school was closed. That's my mum in a nutshell when it comes to attitude to schooling. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday, people.